Are you expecting a supermajority, if we can use that word advisedly, if that means much in the UK? What difference will that make to what Labour intends to do?
I think we're going to see a very significant majority. Looking at the polls now, it's even questionable whether the Conservatives will be the main opposition party. That is a sea change. That will be a sea change in British politics. What would mean is that obviously from a business point of view, you would have a party with a secure majority that is not in hock to the extremes of the party. But it would also mean the centre of British politics will move. Most business people are focused on the fact that Labour's manifesto is in many ways very close to the Conservative Party manifesto. But when you get into power, you can move the centre. And when you have that kind of majority, I expect to see that. So for an example, on an issue like Europe, we will be seeing probably the most pro-European government that we've had in the UK in a very long time. And that could mean a very different tone. Starmer is going to be going to the EU. I mean, he's got this summit at Blenheim coming up in 2 weeks' time. He's got NATO. He's going to have the opportunity to reset a lot of these relationships
Does the size of the majority impact how Starmer deals with Europe? If he gets a big majority, do you think he can move more aggressively on that, more quickly on that?
I think his style is clearly to be incrementalist. But in terms of the tone, we've been through a period in the last few years where anything that comes out of the EU under the Conservative government has to be treated with deep scepticism and suspicion. That will not be the case with Starmer. Certainly on defence and security cooperation, I think he will be like to be a more front-footed than maybe the Conservatives would have been. And in very specific areas where there is an open door, I think he'll be going for it.
Is it all about just those specific areas, though? I mean, obviously they've said they've ruled out single market and customs union and the like. And even on those specific areas, is the EU in the mood to listen? They've got enough, issues holding things together at the moment. It's a changed EU from the one that Boris Johnson was negotiating with.
I think I can talk about how I see the politics in the UK, and I think it will be very hard, given that growth is something that Starmer has trumpeted a lot, to see Labour MPs lashing themselves to the detail of Boris Johnson's Brexit deal if they see that as holding growth back. I think there will be huge pressure, wherever Starmer is coming from his own backbenchers, to do what is needed to do to get growth going. And if you want to get growth going, there are lots of things you need to look at, lots of difficult things that Starmer will have to address, but certainly the EU part is a key part of it.
Very quickly, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Does that come with political pushback, though? If you do start to see the most pro-European government, does that have kind of a ripple effect in the long run?
I think it's a question of tone and being pragmatic and sensible. I don't think Starmer, from what we've seen of him, is suddenly going to say, let's litigate the 2016 referendum. But where I can see consequences long term is, for example, on migration. That if you have a situation, if you have a pro-migration government, if the Liberal Democrats have sort of 65 seats, they are also pro-migration. Migration is about net migration 600,000. You can see that down the line, if that isn't really brought under control, the resurgent Conservative Party becomes sort of the English nationalist anti-migration party. That is a scenario that is really possible, and it's kind of what you've seen in France. What didn't seem possible, under Marine Le Pen suddenly seems possible. So that's where I can see effects down the line. But in terms of Europe specifically, I think the public is probably ahead of where the politicians are in terms of needing some change.